We're going to check our Jack in the Pulpit seeds again and see. Oh, there's some there. Look how striking that is. So easy to see those bright red berries. There's a huge cluster up here, but it hasn't started to turn red yet. But I have an idea that these will probably be the most fertile ones because the berries are so large, the plant is large. I'm going to take some and replant them, some of the seeds. We'll leave some of the seeds for whatever eats them. Okay, let's see, it's right down here somewhere. Oh, there's some small ones there. You can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my goodness, is that one gone? Did that get... Oh no, there it is down there. You can see that. Let me zoom in. Well, I wasn't exactly zooming, but you can see how big and red that is. So there's all kinds of these seeds. Now, fruits. I guess you can't dry the seeds out. So you got to pick them, and you take them out of the fruit and directly into some moist soil. And of course, they're not going to come up till next year. We would have to plant these in pots and leave them outside for the winter. And then, if they sprout, you could plant them somewhere. We also could just plant them directly in the soil somewhere. But they're kind of a unique plant. They like this, you know, what do I want to say? Not too much sun, not too much dark. They really like wet conditions, swampy type conditions. And they're interesting because when the plants are small, they don't have much energy stored in the corm or bulb or whatever, the root mass that's below it. And as they get older, they get more and more. So eventually, these plants who have been putting out male flowers switch and put out female flowers. Why do they switch? Well, producing seeds is extremely taxing for a plant. So they got to make sure they have all the energy they need stored to do it. And as you know, this plant, especially this plant, is huge. You know, now it's kind of wilted and doesn't look like much. It still looks like someone picked that big. Huh. But then they produce the female flower, gets pollinated from the male flower, and then you get these berries. And these plants can live, I've read, 100 years. Oh, there's another one over there. You can see that right in the center of the screen. So it's kind of one of the amazing things about nature. Their flowers is quite distinctive too. And just another great thing in God's creation. Here's that larger seed head. It was just covered up by a leaf. And again, they're all on there securely, so we won't take any of those. I'll just see what eats them too. Well, we're enjoying our walk today. Yesterday, the dog didn't actually want to go and walk. You know, he kind of half-heartedly got to the car, and he wouldn't get up in the car, so I had to pick him up. Then, you know, picked him up to put him down from the car. We took a very short walk, and, you know, you could see he was just lethargic, didn't care. But today, he's walking, although he didn't want to get in and out of the car. Just, you know, with my van, he doesn't like the height of the seat from the ground. And, you know, I've used the ramp before, but then that gives him less distance he has to go up. But then it's in tighter quarters to go from the floor of the vehicle to the seat. So, kind of gets him either way. I love living near wildish spaces. You know, obviously we've got a trail here that's well maintained. There's a lot of bikers, you know, that use this. You know, hikers too. And, you know, school teams, track teams, sometimes you'll see them on a trail, but they tend to more have their own trail sometimes, I think, because they don't want to be that much of a bother to other people, and other people would bother them, like if they're having to stop all the time because there's someone in the you know, place where they're trying to run. That kind of breaks the stride quite a bit, doesn't it, Pink? You know, I lived in Portland when I first got married. Well, we lived in Kingston, New York first, but then we came back to Maine. We lived in Portland. And I'll tell you, I would love to always be around wild places like this. I would not want to have to move into a city where it's a big rigmarole to find a wild place to walk. You have to go, drive a half an hour out. There are some trails in Portland, but they're kind of heavily used sometimes. Although I probably told this story too often, but there was a commotion on the Four River Trail. That's by the Stroudwater area as you're kind of going into Portland. There's a big commotion. People coming off the road and saying, "Oh, there's this creature there. There's this, large lizard and everything." Well, we're trying to get that. So I walk away, and sure enough, I see it. There's a bearded dragon, and there's some exasperated people there. This thing's like 2.5, 3 feet long. And they're saying, well, we're trying to get animal control to take it, but they won't. Like, they're not used to dealing with lizards. They do cats and dogs. And mostly dogs. So I just said, "Oh, cancel it. I'll take them." They were like, "Yeah, what? Yeah, I'll take him." So I picked him up. And it's funny, I kind of holding him away from me a little. And he started squirming. And I said, "Oh, wait a second. This isn't how people carry lizards." Then I put him up against me like you would burping a baby. He feels secure then. He's fine. Because, of course, bearded dragons don't live in Maine. And so this is an exotic pet that I assume someone let go. There wasn't anything in the news about it. And the funny thing is, when people do that, this lizard, it had a certain coloration that made it a little more rare. So the current price today of it, I think, would have been over $300. Maybe more. But we got to smell everything where other dogs had peed. And so we brought him home, rehomed him, not for money, someone that wanted it. And so there we go. I felt like the crocodile hunter for a minute, by crikey. And there was never any danger. That isn't how he says it. That's how the robot and Will Robinson. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. But we can see over here, we're getting close to someone's house, but it goes along here until it actually hits the highway, then it stops. We had a new highway built, and it cut off some things. Look at this right here. Let me get a little bit closer here. Oh, can you hear the crows? We're looking at partridge berries, these little red berries that are on these leaves. These are quite edible, but they're very bland tasting. But you can learn to recognize them. Generally, you don't want to eat red berries in nature because half of them are poison or toxic to some degree. So you don't want to just randomly eat red berries. There's this red berry, and then there's some wintergreen berries that are bright red that look similar. The leaves are quite a bit different. The details are quite a bit different, but that's why you get really good field guides so that you can actually key through and look at every aspect of a plant before you put it in your mouth. And even then, I would say that isn't even good a lot of times because, I don't know, people do some crazy things and eat crazy things. So it's better to at least have some classes in it because, I don't know, people just don't understand that you have to be careful. That's especially true with mushroom foraging, which I forage for wild mushrooms. I haven't gotten much of anything this year, but we've had such dry weather. And, but there's this mushroom called jack-o'-lanterns. It's kind of this bright orange color. And it's very distinctive. And then there are these other mushrooms called chanterelles, or another one called chicken of the woods. And somehow people decide that this really toxic mushroom is that, when it has so many different characteristics that, you have to be really lame to think one is the other. And, but people do. Even sometimes there was this mushroom guy, and he had some class, and they had some dinner afterwards. Basically, everyone went to the hospital afterwards. And they theorized that somehow, in what they were picking, they had picked one of these jack-o'-lanterns by mistake. And they hadn't, people go out and get mushrooms and bring them back. You look at them and ID them and all this stuff. Well, evidently one got missed. Got put in the, we can eat these pile. And they paid for it later. No one died. The vast majority of deaths and sickness caused by mushrooms is people mishandling edible mushrooms. I mean, they don't know what they look like when they're rotten. Like, what an apple looks like when it's rotten. You wouldn't eat a rotten apple. Well, you shouldn't be, you see fall's coming. You shouldn't be eating, mushrooms that are past their prime either. And you got to know some mushrooms absolutely have to be cooked thoroughly before you can eat them, or they can be toxic. And then two, some people have an almost deadly allergy to any mushrooms at all. So you get one of those people, start feeding them mushrooms, they're going to be pretty sorry. With any new foraged food, even if you're, or an expert, is absolutely certain what it is, you shouldn't eat a lot of it first because you might be sensitive to it. That's an issue with milkweed. So you think you're going to eat milkweed, you should really study up on it. And, I probably said this too many times too, but Samuel Thayer, he has some excellent books. He has a series of 300 to 500 page books. I forget if there's 3 or 4 of them, but they each go into like 30 or 40 species in depth. Okay, but then he came out with the field guide. This is a massive book. It's actually field guides you take it in the field. This one you're going to need a backpack for. It's so big and heavy, but it's really thorough. And it's not secondhand knowledge or third hand, fourth hand. a lot of things, people who do foraging things just copy something from somewhere else and put it in there. But he has, kind of personally vetted these things. Most of the pictures are his, excellent pictures. And so he has the information about them, and you don't have to worry that he's just copying someone else, because there were errors even in, Euell Gibbons, way back when, got people start thinking about wild edibles. It was called, one of his books was called, fly on me, mosquito, was called Stalking the Wild Asparagus or something like that. But that actually had errors in it. And you see those errors copied over into other books. When you see those errors, you know that the author didn't really do a good job. Hey, Pink, you're all tangled up. You're tangled up, yeah? Now this one, there you go. Isn't that more comfortable? I would think so. There they are. Now there's some here. There's some more Jack in the Pulpits there. See how that red sticks right out there? I see 1, 2, 3 of them. And then down here, we'll see some individual plants. And even across the road here, which we're not doing today, we would see some more.